Hello everyone, and welcome to Operation Little Learners. I'm Miss Melissa, Child Care Director at the Armed Services YMCA.
I am Miss Antoinette. I'm the Associate Executive Director of the Armed Services YMCA.
And welcome. Today we're going to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you're not standing, go ahead and stand, and we'll put our right hand over our chest, and let's begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Today we'll be making paper roll astronauts. We'll be reading a book titled I Am Neil Armstrong and singing a little song called 5 Little Astronauts. Let's begin. I Am Neil Armstrong by Brad Meltzer. I am Neil Armstrong. I grew up on a farm with no electricity. When I was 8 years old, my goal was to climb this silver maple tree, the biggest one in my backyard. It seemed impossible. The tree was so big and I was so small. How would I do it? I need to be brave. I wasn't a brave kid, though. Back in Ohio, when I was 3 years old, I got scared when we went to see Santa Claus. I also needed to be smart. As a kid, I loved to read. Finally, I needed to be patient. Yet, to climb that huge tree, the only way to get to the top was this: I had to take the first step. Climbing the tree was like a puzzle. I needed to pick the right branches in the right order. I had to engineer or figure out a solution. I had to use my brain even more than my body. Plus, I love the feeling of being so high up. But then I grabbed a dead branch, and crack! I fell 15 feet. I landed flat on my back. Luckily, I wasn't hurt. On that day, I did learn not to grab dead branches. But the most important thing I did was to get back up again. Success never comes easily. It takes hard work, and when it came to hard work, I was really good at that. Those jobs helped me pay for the one thing I loved more than anything else: airplanes. My mom bought me my first toy plane when I was 2 or 3 years old. After that, I was always zooming around the house and through the neighborhood. When I was 6, I took my first real airplane ride in an aluminum high-wing monoplane called the Tin Goose. The 12 seats inside were all wicker chairs. It rattled like crazy. I became obsessed with learning about planes, reading about them, and even building them. By the time I was 15, instead of buying toy airplanes, I started saving my money for flying lessons. By 16, I got my real pilot's license, even before I got my driver's license. As a teenager, I loved flying so much, I'd have the same dream over and over. In my dream, by holding my breath, I could hover over the ground. I didn't fly or really move, I'd just float there. When I got older, I joined the Navy, flying in 78 missions during the Korean War. On one of them, my plane lost its wings, so I needed to eject and get out immediately. I landed safely in the water. By the end of the war, the U.S. gave me many war medals. Though I never bragged about them, I'd been taught to stay humble. In college, I studied how to be an engineer, which is a person who designs and builds machines and structures. That love of engineering led me to become a test pilot. Engineers test and learn, test and learn. By flying that rocket, we learn new things about aerodynamics, how air affects a plane, hypersonic speed, and the best materials to use on airplanes. Making things better, that's engineering. In 1957, the space race had begun. Both America and the Soviet Union were competing to be the first into outer space. The Soviets sent their first satellite into space. It was named Sputnik. Then they sent their first living creatures that survived space travel, 2 dogs named Strelka and Belka. The Soviet Union also sent the first human, Yuri Gagarin. into space, though we sent a person named Alan Shepard soon after. America wanted to catch up, so President John F. Kennedy Jr. issued a challenge that year. Not even the Soviets had traveled that far. So how would we manage to climb that high? The only thing we knew for sure was this: we'd have to engineer a solution. We needed new ideas, new equipment, and to fly all the way to the moon, we needed a new type of pilot, an astronaut. In another test, they put me in a black room, no lights, no clocks, and told me to come out after 2 hours. They were testing if we could judge time without tools. They even put me in a really hot room where it got up to 145 degrees Fahrenheit. To keep my body heat normal, I did nothing but sit still. I tried not to even think. And of course, they spun me around and around and around. To get to the moon, NASA had to step-by-step plan. The Mercury missions would take Americans into space, and the Gemini missions would take us into orbit around the Earth. With each step, we would get a little farther and a little higher. It was the first time 2 spacecraft ever connected in space. Everyone started celebrating the moment we were docked, and then suddenly we were undocked again and spinning out of control. After all those years as a test pilot, I knew how to stay calm. I kept my eyes on the controls so I could fire another thruster to stop our spin. The mission had to be stopped earlier than planned. We landed safely, but it taught me another lesson. Nothing in space is easy. Over and over, there were setbacks and devastating crashes. At times, going to the moon seemed impossible, but we never let it stop us. With each setback, we learned how to strengthen the Apollo spacecraft, which would take us to the moon. When Apollo 11 was finally ready, I said to the flight director, "Please tell everyone who worked on this that this is their launch. Tell them they'll be riding with us all the way." All that was left now was to proceed with the steps in the plan. Step 1. The giant Saturn V rocket had 3 stages. When each stage burned its fuel, the next stage would take over, giving us enough lift to get us out of the Earth's gravity and into the moon's orbit. Step 2. When we reached the moon, the command module would park, circling the moon and staying in orbit. We would move to the lunar module, and then the lunar module would go down to the surface. Step 3. When we were ready to leave, the lunar module would lift off from the moon. It would have to perfectly dock with the command module. Step 4. Then we would climb back into the command module, fire the rocket on the service module, and come back to Earth. One key question remained. Would it work? On July 16, 1969, at Florida's Cape Kennedy, almost 1 million people were there to watch. There were 3 of us on board: Buzz Aldrin, Michael Collins, and Neil Armstrong. On Launch Pad 39A, after a 417-step checklist to make sure everything was perfect, the countdown began. 12, 11, 10, 9, ignition sequence start. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engines running. Liftoff. We have liftoff. We were going over 24,200 miles per hour as the 3rd stage rocket pushed us free of Earth's gravity. So, how was the view? There's nothing on Earth quite like it. Remember our plan? We were still following it step by step. Buzz and I got into the Eagle. We realized we weren't close to our landing spot. The ground wasn't smooth. There were rocks as big as cars. The landing was so soft we barely felt it. Now came the hardest part of all. This is the moon. For nearly a decade, my goal was to reach it. It seemed impossible. The moon was so far. We were so small. How did we do it? We had to be brave, we had to be smart, we had to be patient. But to really make this happen, I had to take the first step. It was 10:56 p.m., Sunday, July 20th, 1969. 1/5 of the world's population was watching on TV. In my life, people called me a test pilot, an astronaut, a space traveler. But to reach the stars, I needed to be an engineer. Engineers search for solutions. They solve problems. How? By testing and failing, by testing and failing. It is the key to science. It is also the key to life. It was never just one small step that got me there. It was the thousands that came before it. We all have moments when we fail, but failure is not an ending. It's an opportunity to learn something new. Whenever you tumble, you must get back up. Every mistake you make teaches you a better way forward. Whatever your path is in life, explore your dreams. Use hard work and teamwork. Be brave and patient. Engineer your own solutions. It can take you all the way to the moon. I am Neil Armstrong. I know that every journey begins with the first step. The end. Today we'll be making paper roll astronauts. Kids love a chance to try and test their gross motor skill, and this paper roll astronaut is the perfect way to do so. So you'll need a paper towel roll that's empty. You can also cut it in half if it's a little bit longer. The printout that you'll find on our link, which will give you a little piece of paper like this, a face, and you're also welcome to use a face or a picture of your child, not the face of your child, a picture of your child, 2 little legs, 2 little hands, and their air tank. So first, on your little piece of paper, you can provide your child with crayons or markers, whatever you have. I love these washable markers because they don't stain. And have them decorate it as they please. I'm going to draw a little bit of a flag, maybe some stars. There we go. And you can get creative. There we are. Younger ones can also finger paint on here if they'd like. Maybe some more stars back here. And the moon. All right. So there we go. And on your paper roll, you're going to get some glue. You can also use a glue stick, whatever you have at home. And I just start to put some glue on mine just like that. Oops. Just going to use my fingers to spread it a little bit. There we go. Grab your little sheet and just glue it on there. Use the table to hold it on a little bit more. All right, there we go, just like that. And then from here, we're gonna glue on our little legs. And wherever you choose to put them is just fine. There we go. And then our little arms. And children can color the arms and legs as well, however they please. I always think the more the merrier. There we go. which you can't forget when you're headed out to outer space. There we go. And then of course your picture. And you will want to set this out to dry for at least 30 minutes so all the glue dries up on there. And just like that, you have got yourself a paper roll astronaut. Today's song is 5 Little Astronauts. So go ahead and get your 5 little astronauts out just like this and we'll begin. 5 little astronauts flying in the stars. The first one said, "Let's see Mars." The second one said, "Here's a comet in the air." The third one said, "There's an alien here." The fourth one said, "Let's soar to the sky." The fifth one said, "Let's go up really high." Then whoosh went the spaceship. Buckle up tight, and the 5 little astronauts zoomed out of sight. Thank you guys for joining us for Little Learners Live. It was lots of fun, and I hope to see you next week. Have a great day. Bye.